Hello friends! Today we're going to be focusing on the book, 21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act, Helping Canadians Make Reconciliation with Indigenous Peoples a Reality, written by Bob Joseph. This book focuses on Indigenous peoples' return to self-government, self-determination, and self-reliance, and how those three things can help to make Canada a better place. Bob also focuses on the importance of reconciliation and what we can do to educate ourselves with regards to the Indian Act and how it has impacted Indigenous peoples in Canada as a whole. Let's get started. "21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act, Helping Canadians Make Reconciliation with Indigenous Peoples a Reality" by Bob Joseph. I would like to start our session today by acknowledging the land that I am currently occupying. I live in Oro-Madani, Ontario, Canada, which is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, Mississauga, and Wendat Neo-Wentosy territories. This territory is covered by Treaty 16, which is also known as the Lake Simcoe Purchase, as well as the Williams Treaty of 1923. My ancestors were settlers from Ireland, England, Scotland, France, Switzerland, and Germany. Long before today, there have been Indigenous peoples who have been the stewards of this place. I recognize the contributions that Métis, Inuit, and other Indigenous peoples have made, both in shaping and strengthening this community, and our province and country as a whole. I feel a responsibility to help educate myself and others about the importance of this land and the history of Indigenous peoples, and in particular to bring justice for murdered and missing Indigenous women and children across the country. My commitments include that I will review the Truth and Reconciliation Commission's 94 calls to action, as well as the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, and consider how I can support truth and reconciliation. I will reach out to my local Native Fellowship Center and forge partnerships with local Indigenous communities and organizations. I will support Indigenous artists and authors and educate myself through reading books, attending conferences and workshops. I am grateful for elders and those who are willing to share their stories with us so that we may understand their experiences and work towards reconciliation. I vow to move forward in the spirit of reconciliation and respect with all First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people. Thank you. Bob Joseph is the founder and president of Indigenous Corporate Training, Inc. He develops training sessions around working effectively with Indigenous peoples, Indigenous awareness, relations, consultation and engagement employment, recruitment and retention, how to negotiate with Indigenous peoples, and working with the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. 21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act is a #1 national bestseller. This book is crucial in order to understand the Indian Act and the negative impacts it has had on generations of Indigenous peoples. The Indian Act was created in 1876, and since then it has controlled the lives of Indigenous peoples and ripped their culture away from them. This has led to generations of Indigenous peoples who have experienced abuse, discrimination, stereotypes, and other racial injustices. This book is designed to bring awareness of the ongoing generational trauma that the Indian Act has had to impact the lives of Indigenous peoples in Canada, and it suggests ways in which we can all move toward the reconciliation process. However, Joseph makes it clear in his book that reconciliation can only happen once we educate ourselves and become aware of how the Indian Act has impacted Canada as a whole. The overall message in this book is to explain the importance of how Indigenous peoples' return to self-governance, self-determination, and self-reliance would result in a Canada that is better for all people. Pick up a copy of Bob Joseph's book today so that you can begin the process of healing our country and working toward reconciliation. After reading the book, Here are some reflection questions to ponder. Which aspects of the Indian Act were most disturbing to you? How has this book affected your view of Canada's history and its founding father, John A. Macdonald? Does removing statues and renaming buildings contribute to reconciliation or erase history? How does this book influence the way you now perceive Indigenous peoples? What are the social and political impacts of removing the Indian Act as a piece of legislature? Another way to reflect is to write your own land acknowledgement statement. You can do this by checking out nativeland.ca, where you can find the territories, treaties, and languages within your land that you occupy. You can also check out a guide to Indigenous land acknowledgement at the web link below, and I'll put that in the description for this video. Another thing that you can add into your personal land acknowledgement statement is writing personal commitments. What will you do to ensure that you're working towards truth and reconciliation? You can check out some additional resources on our website at chaptersforchange.com. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me today as we took a look at 21 things you may not know about the Indian Act. I'd like to close our session today with a quote from the book. Chief Dr. Robert Joseph stated that, "I have a deep hope for Canada that there can be reconciliation. I want every Canadian to imagine a Canada in which every person will live with dignity, value, and purpose. But to do that, there must be reflection on our shared history and the harmful periods and events that continue to haunt us as a nation. So let's do our job and read to learn and learn to change." See you soon, friends. If you don't want to miss any of our upcoming videos, make sure that you hit the subscribe button below as well as the notifications. And you can also visit our website, chaptersforchange.com, for educational resources and to see what we're up to. See you soon.